Mocha family, how are you? I'm doing well. I've been busy.
Proceed 5 miles on the current road.
That's the GPS. I've been on a fast, and when I do this fast, I typically get offline. So I haven't been on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. And because it's a spiritual fast. This is my 21-day fast that I do every year. So I wanted to come on here and share some tips with you guys. First of all, this is a spiritual fast. And so when I do this fast, I'm really trying to get closer to God and, to get clarity on spiritual matters. But it also affects me on a practical level. And so I get a lot of mental clarity for work and all sorts of things. For example, I've been writing a book. You guys will hear more about that later. I finished the first draft on this fast when I felt a total blockage for months and months and months. So now that's being edited, and then I'll get my next draft to complete with all the corrections. But I honestly believe that the breakthrough that I experienced in completing the book, for me, was a direct result of this fast. So I've talked about this fast before. It's 21 days, so it's a progressive fast. So the first 7 days, we're fasting food. I know people fast all kinds of things, but we just really want to use a more but a biblical approach to fasting. I still think there's value in fasting media and dessert and things like that. But we wanted to really follow the example of Jesus, who fasted for 40 days with I'm thinking he just had water. And he went into the wilderness and fasted and was tempted. You can read in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. You can read about their accounts of that. But we're trying to follow that. So it's dropping meals. So the first week we drop 1 meal. The second week we drop two meals. And then the third week we drop all 3 meals. There's no snacks or anything. Okay. And with just water. And what we've done in the past as a family, because your body really adjusts to eating less and less. What we've done in the past as a family is, say, if you're opting the last week to drop all 3 meals, but you're really struggling, or you're very physically active, you're an athlete, you're playing a sport or dancing, ballet, which were the issues in my family, then you can revert to dropping 1 or 2 meals. And for me, I've told myself in the past that I didn't have the capacity to fast longer than 3 or 4 days with just water. That's what I told myself. And so I've always fasted 3 or 4 days, and then I would revert back to just the 1 meal a day. But last year, for the first time, I decided, and it's largely because of my teens who were able to fast me under the table, great attitude. When my husband and I are fasting, we're both whining. We're so hungry. This is so hard, and I asked one of my older teens, how come you have such a great attitude? And they said, you're fasting. You're supposed to be hungry. And I was so convicted. And I think one of them fasted 4 days easily. And the only reason they didn't keep going was because they had a sports situation to get back into. We don't recommend fasting with water only while you are exercising hardcore. Don't exercise when you're fasting. Okay? Now, if you're only dropping 1 meal, you can still exercise. I've done that. And this may sound crazy, but when I'm fasting, when I'm down to the no meals, I don't experience this with the 1 meal, 2 meal. When I'm down to the 1 meal, it's not just stopping exercising. I just have to modify things like how I leap out of the bed. I had no idea that in general, when I get up, I leap out of the bed in like one hop, and I did that not realizing, because the weakness just sort of comes on you. You're fine like the first day and the second day. By the third day, that's when I started noticing physical weakness. And I literally fell down to the ground. My legs buckled out from under me. I wasn't unconscious for minutes or anything like that, but I felt extremely lightheaded. You have to slow down your movement. So when, well into the 7 days of just water, I have to slowly sit up, then pause, then stand up and pause, and then walk across the room. I think it's really the first movement of the day that I experienced it in the most extreme sense. But I have fallen down, almost passed out from just moving too quickly, because I'm always in a hurry. I'm always rushing here and there to get things done. A lot of fasting is mental, okay? As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. That's a scripture. So understand that you are making a sacrifice, but part of that sacrifice involves suffering. So I've had to tell myself, you're going to feel uncomfortable in some ways. One of the biggest things that I've noticed for me is that a person who really doesn't focus on food all that much, when I'm fasting, suddenly I'm thinking about all the stuff that I don't even eat anymore. And my mouth is watering, and my mind is so focused on food. It's a mental battle. But people can experience nausea, you can experience dizziness, you can experience physical weakness. You will feel hungry. You're supposed to feel hungry. And that can be a miserable feeling, but I notice as the fast progresses, I feel less and less hungry. So tell yourself that you're suffering. There's this passage of scripture in the Old Testament where God is calling a fast. I think it was part of the story of Esther, but it could have been a different fast. I could have that mixed up. He literally told the people to afflict their souls. Afflict involves suffering. So I think a lot of times we don't think of fasting as suffering, and we get really frustrated and crabby about how uncomfortable we can feel when we're fasting, but that's part of it. Now, I think we can use wisdom, because you don't want to find yourself in an overly weakened state when you're not at home. And, so I really do try to modify my activity. And right now I'm on day 4 and I'm in the car because some activity can't be modified. I'm in the car because I have to take my kids back and forth to their activities. But I wouldn't do a long drive on this fast. I wouldn't do a lot of walking, a lot of physical activity. Like there was an ice skating situation we could have been a part of, but I turned that down because I'm not ice skating when I'm not eating. Your body literally uses the food to fuel you. So I'm low on fuel, so I'm gonna act like I'm low on fuel. So this is great if you're a couch potato. I sit at my desk a lot. I cancel anything that requires physical exertion beyond even normal physical exertion. I wouldn't be walking around the mall on 4 days of fasting with just water, for example. That's not when I'm doing my big grocery shopping. That's not when I'm in BJ's, Costco. You know what I'm saying? Because you will feel a reduction in your energy. But know that fasting is really good for your body. I was reading, people fast for non-spiritual reasons all of the time. I was reading that, when your body is not so focused on digestion and breaking the food down, it uses that reserve to focus on repairing the body. So it's awesome. Like I know some people fast and they still drink coffee and they still drink caffeinated green tea because the caffeine does give you a measure of energy. Do what works well for you, as long as I think the most important thing is to set the parameters of the fast before you start, and then hold on to those parameters. So if you decide that's going to be allowed in your fast, then whatever. But for me, I like to get rid of caffeine because that's very taxing to my adrenals, and my adrenals struggle anyway, you know what I'm saying? And my thyroid. And so I like to give up coffee altogether. But during this fast, God has showed me you can get to where you need to get later in the evening without caffeine, which is news to me because I'm always thinking that I'm limited. And I think that's the greatest gift that I've received from fasting. It really shows me where my limits aren't. Whereas in everyday life, when I'm not fasting, I tell myself I'm limited. It also shows me how much self-control I have. Like I would tell myself, I can't resist. I'm driving by Wawa. I have to stop. I have to get a latte. It's like Wawa is calling my name. GPS. It's like Wawa is calling my name, you guys. But when I'm fasting, I'm very disciplined, and I tell myself, you driving right past Wawa, you're not having caffeine, so you're not stopping. I'm like, how am I able to do it when I'm fasting, when it is so hard to do when I'm not fasting? Okay, that's one of the benefits of fasting. And I believe that the Lord gives us grace. He gives us an extra measure of ability that doesn't exist when we're not fasting, to be able to deny ourselves and do what we need to do. So I think it's awesome, because I think we have to practice self-control so that when we aren't fasting, we'll have self-control and realize that you don't have to tell yourself yes about everything. I really left this out, and I really think it's super important. So that's why I'm hoping I'll be able to piece this back in the video in a way that makes sense. But when you're fasting, you need to drink water. I'm not talking about throughout the day you drink 1 cup of water. You took sips all day, you finished that 1 water bottle. You need to drink a lot of water. If you don't drink enough water, you may experience symptoms of dehydration, including things like nausea. You may get a really bad headache ongoing. You have to drink a lot of water. Now, I haven't experienced any symptoms like that on this fast, even 4 days into fasting with just water. I haven't had a headache. I haven't experienced any of that. Part of it is because I guzzle that water. I drink so much water. Now, when I'm not fasting, I drink a lot of water. Okay, I get up, I down 32 ounces right off the bat. Okay, and I drink almost up to 1 gallon of water a day. That's just my natural inclination. So when I'm fasting, I continue that. I don't think I get up to 1 gallon when I'm fasting, but I'm drinking more than 64 ounces in a day. I'm not saying you have to do more than 64, but let 64 be your goal. With 8 glasses of water, that's the minimum that they recommend. Let that be your goal. So if you are a person who doesn't drink water normally, you can't stand just the taste of plain water, you might want to start training yourself to drink more water before you start fasting, so that as you fast, you're not dealing with breaking into that as well. I just think that's an additional unnecessary stress. You may want to try putting lemon in your water. I mean, not enough to make lemonade, you guys, and no sugar, okay? But my husband, he needs the water to be less acidic. Believe it or not, the pH in water is not necessarily 0 or basic or whatever, 7, whatever. For his system, he needs it to be more alkaline, and so he'll add lemon to his water when he's fasting and just in general, and that settles on his stomach a lot better, because even though lemon is really an acid, when you ingest it, it has an alkaline effect on your body. And so you may want to try that. You may want to try, some people drink teas, herbal teas, when they're fasting. There's like 0 caloric content to just plain tea. All your calories come from adding sugar, honey, maple syrup, or whatever other cream. That's where all your calories come in. So your body will stay in a fasted state if you consume something that doesn't have calories, like coffee, black coffee, no cream, no sugar, and teas and things like that. So if you have to revert to that to make it work for yourself, then I would say I would try it. I would pray about it and I would try it. But you have to stay hydrated when you're fasting. And because this is a spiritual fast, it wouldn't mean anything if all I did was stop eating. It is extremely important to spend time.
Is ahead on the left.
It is extremely important to spend time reading scripture. Spend time praying, spend time worshiping, because the whole purpose of this fast is to get closer to the Lord. That's the purpose of the fast. Okay, I'm about to turn into this spot right here. You know what I'm saying? That's the purpose of the fast. And so I know a lot of people might say that they've been... Thank you, GPS. You're talking so much. I know a lot of people may say they may not have experienced all the results that they should experience on a fast, but my question to them is, how are you doing this thing? So maybe this video would have been helpful earlier on in the month, or maybe even last month, but I would hope that the beginning of the year is not the only time we fast. So hopefully you'll be able to apply it, and even apply it next year if you really only do fast in January. So I hope that helps. Leave your question. I would love to have a discussion below with you guys. Please be prayerful and educated before you leave your comment. Know that you can Google fasting to see that this is not something new, and people do it even for non-spiritual reasons. There have been healing benefits, all sorts of benefits with fasting, and we are scripturally encouraged to fast. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Be blessed.